Dr. Leonard Horowitz. This is the Insight Hour. We typically come every Tuesday night to you via bbsradio.com and on love528tv.net, broad streaming right now. And this is Sherry Kane.
Hi, everybody.
Sherry Kane's an investigative journalist, a Fox News defector, and we've been doing some work together, and Sherry alone has been doing some extraordinary research with regard to this current situation.
Well, basically there was
Edward Harley,
a very well-known journalist who was exposing the biggest players in the financial world, and he was murdered on July 14th. On July 10th, he wrote his final report, and in that he disclosed who was going to be murdering him.
This is Edward Harley we're talking about now, or his pen name was Christopher Story from Britain.
Exactly. And then there was an email that was circulating the internet with Christopher Story's final report, and it was written by another man who we have actually just found out who he is affiliated with. And in that final report, he doctored it, and he put a list, a Knights of Malta list, and these on this,
which implicates yours truly.
Exactly, but on the list, let me tell you, it has the Bushes, it has Clinton, it has Hoover, it has Kissinger, all the worst people in
very, very notorious, infamous murderers and genocidalists.
And your name stands out like a sore thumb.
And my name stands out like a sore thumb on this list because it is a fraud. It's a forged document, and essentially I was being set up, and I currently am set up in the murder of Edward Harley. Again, his pen name is Christopher Story.
And the way he's being set up is by his name being included in this list. If Dr. Horowitz's name is on that list, well, guess what? He's implicated in the murder. And whoever it was, which we found out who it was, Ben Fulford, who was circulating this around the internet.
And Greg Zemansky,
who actually created the list under an alias named Eric Samuelson, and they're both JDs. Both Zemansky and Samuelson are JDs.
That's counsels who cannot practice law. Essentially, this Eric Samuelson, according to all of the research that we've done, doesn't exist.
Exactly.
He's not known in any of the social networks that would be familiar with him. And so this man is a pen name for Greg Zemansky, who in 2006 suddenly decided that I was a Knight of Malta, despite the fact that I had clearly put on my website that I joined the Knights of Hospitaller. Starting in the 1930s, the fellow who started the Knights Hospitaller, because he had to exile from Russia, he was being persecuted there in literally the goodness of his heart. His name was Babrinsky. He lived in New York, and he started a new organization there with the effort to bring the tradition of bringing hospitals or clinics for the underprivileged, the people who were harmed in war, and people who were essentially couldn't afford health care. Free clinics, and then specifically in the natural healing sector, because he was aware, as every single Knights Hospitaller in that organization that I was honored to be knighted in, was aware that Big Pharma, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, essentially the Illuminati, if you will, were on the attack against all of the natural healers. And everything having to do with natural medicine was being undermined by Big Pharma, David Rockefeller, Rothschild banking cartel.
We want to mention to you also that Mr. Fulford interviewed David Rockefeller, and I'm going to tell you as a journalist, that is impossible.
Unless you've got some major reason, connection and or some sort of a lot of money. And essentially that's what this Benjamin Fulford does have.
And he used to be a writer for Forbes magazine. He's now living in Japan, and he pretends to be exposing, he kind of flip-flops on different places, and he actually has infiltrated the conspiracy community, and with that he has allies that are working together with him, and that would be including Greg Zemansky. He was actually opponent to Edward Harley.
Again, to give you a little bit of background on this, Edward Harley is world famous for being the world's leading financial analyst and whistleblower in the financial sector. And he was, according to all the evidence that we had, he was working for the Queen of England, essentially, or MI6. He was serving their propaganda mechanisms and bringing a lot of heat on the Bush, Obama, the Dick Cheney and Bush camp in Rockefeller's camp, and that essentially he had published not that long ago, Harley did, that the Queen of England had $52 billion stolen from her by the Bush, Cheney, Rockefeller, CIA league here in America. So that's what Harley was writing about.
He never wrote about the Queen, though. He had an affinity for her. He really, really liked her. He protected the monarchy. So he seemed to be an agent for the Queen's side. Now, within the two sides of the American Bush-Cheney side and the Queen side, there was a lot of the separation among those people. There was people within those groups that didn't like each other at all.
And then that's not all. I mean, if you read Edward Harley, Christopher Story's research, it's meticulous. He had an outstanding intelligence network. Obviously, highest level agents stationed in Washington, D.C. with their finger and ears to everything that was happening. So his intelligence was superb. Now, the challenge with his greatest competitor, Benjamin Fulford, is he is essentially in Japan and makes no bones about telling everybody that he's signed on to the Japanese secret societies, including the Japanese Assassin Society that Edward Harley was so concerned about. When Harley wrote his last few articles, he had specifically stated that there were death threats against Edward Harley, Christopher Story, by not only this Benjamin Fulford, but as Sherry mentioned, the Bush, Cheney, Obama, CIA, cartel, linked, Rockefeller-linked organization,
Mafia
crime organization.
Cartel. He labeled Bush Sr. as the Godfather, and he saw them as a bunch of mafia people that were actually killers, and he wasn't not afraid to get out there and tell everybody. But what people don't understand, it's not Bush or Cheney that's coming with the gun and shooting them. And what we have exposed is who are the people that are working for these higher ups? Who are they on the level, on our level, the level of the conspiracy communities,
the grassroots community, the activist community.
Exactly. Who are these people?
And they've exposed themselves. We've exposed them now.
Well, they really exposed themselves by pointing the finger at Dr. Horowitz and blaming him for being an Illuminati or working for the Vatican or being a Knights of Malta. You know, it was happening for such a long time that we had to look and turn around and say, who are these people pointing the finger? So they've really left themselves open for that exposure. Only they didn't know that we were such great researchers. I
neglected them for many, many years. In fact, when Greg Zemansky, who we'll have to talk about tonight because he was the initiator and he's virtually a ringleader, major characters, very, very criminal type of characters, fanatical, alleged to be Christians and they're not. They're Satanists.
And he speaks really well. You can almost hear the CIA in his voice. He's a very, very good speaker.
He's a sophisticated radio talk show host. He's on some of the networks and he's all over the internet, literally libeling me as he started to in 2006. And when he did that, I have a lot of people calling me names. And, if you live in glass houses, you shouldn't throw stones. We've been throwing stones at the Rockefellers and literally showing how HIV/AIDS was developed out of the Rockefeller Rothschild effort for depopulation. The old eugenics movement was funded by Rockefellers. It's moved into the current century via the virology and the genetics sector. And so I've been exposing that. I've been literally having a major impact in the health sciences. Last year, 2009, our organization helped tremendously in defeating the effort to get physicians to vaccinate people with H1N1. And again, this flu season in the fall, they're going to be coming back again and we'll have to get activated again, God willing. We'll have the opportunity to do that without this distraction. But I've been at it, and so I was seeing these people writing things about me on the internet, including Zemansky. And of course, I protested. And Zemansky used people, very famous people. Alex Jones. Of course, we have a newsletter. If you haven't seen our newsletter, please go to healthyworldstore.com. Go down to the newsletter archives on the home page. Click on the archives. You'll be able to see and read exactly what I'm talking about now.
Right along the bottom of the page, you'll see it. Just click the link.
Yeah, it says newsletter archives, healthyworldstore.com. And you'll see we have published a whole expose on Alex Jones literally being infiltrated by agents for Homeland Security in the current issue. We have in this article that my actually affidavit, I've exposed the fact that Szymanski, the man who initiated this fraud, claiming that I am a Knights of Malta, then publishing fraudulently a doctored list of Knights of Malta members and then circulating it on not only Alex Jones's website, but David Icke. And I pleaded with David Icke via mails. I literally sent a number of mails to David Icke, and I said, please, take this down. It is libelous. It is a fraud. But he refused to do that. Apparently, David Icke is living in a paradigm where he thinks that my harm is his gain. So that's very interesting. And the whole thing is very revealing. And I think that, again, go to healthyworldstore.com, download that article, help us by spreading that article, because the truth shall set you free. And what we've run into here is some absolutely stunning news that literally makes all of us aware of how the big game is being played and how it filters down to our grassroots level of activism.
When I'm feeling weak and my pain walks down a one-way street, I look above and I know I'll always be blessed with love. And as the feeling grows, she breathes fresh to my bones.